Rowley Park Speedway, 1948 to 1979. The Ralph Shields, the Kimber Knighton, and finally the RDA with President Sel Harley. The old pug hole at Brompton was Adelaide's entertainment centre every Friday night in season, the place where the champions gathered. Thousands came every week to watch the speed cars, the TQs, stock cars, and the 2- and 3-wheelers, the bikes. Joe Brendler, Zeke Agars, Doug Sundstrom, Phil Hareen, Dean Hogarth, and the Rowley Park master Bill Wigzell, and many more cut their racing teeth at Rowley Park and went on to successful driving and riding careers. Drivers and riders came from all over Australia, from America, England, Scotland, and New Zealand. The names and the faces bring back so many memories when Speedway was our sport. Here's some nostalgic film of early Rowley Park where crews push-started their cars, crowds went crazy, and the drivers raced like champions. This DVD is dedicated to the memory of Bill Wigzell, OAM, who thrilled the massive crowds attending the Speedway during that time when Friday night was Speedway night, where Rowley Park was the place where the champions gathered. In 1947, the Port Pirie long track at the Port Pirie Aerodrome started Bill Wigzell's zest for speed and racing. At the tender age of 18, Bill Wigzell proudly showed off his 500cc Norton. There was minimal clothing protection, but that didn't stop many successes on his first bike. A rider with a natural talent and a love of the thrill of racing. The Triumph V-Twin was raced at the Woodside Circuit, a half-mile dirt track. Later, Bill raced at the local hill climb, then in the 50s, the bitumen track at Lobethal. This amazing registered bike 3420 gave him some early rides with that amazing low-geared, belt-driven rear wheel. Bill Wigzell's future was assured on the Norton. Her name was Barbara Lewis, soon to be Barbara Wigzell. What a wonderful pair, Bill and Bub. The love and support of each other was legendary. It was the late 40s, and an old Speedway identity, Laurie Jamison, had a big influence on Bill Wigzell. He saw the talent and the fearless skills of the young rider. Here's Bill on the outside of Jack Sands. Every rider has his falls and spills, but Bill was no exception. The renowned Jack Young was a mentor for the kid rider. Lots of advice, lots of spares for his bike, and lots of encouragement. Not bad for a champion holding 2 world titles. 1950 was the year that Jack Young rode at Wembley Stadium representing Australia and riding for the Edinburgh Monarchs. He won the world title, the World Championship, in 1951 and 1952. Alex Rowe's workshop in Eliza Place, Adelaide, where he had a lineup of cars that Kimber Knighton had organised for visiting drivers. Alex kept a stable of cars until Mac Diamond became Kim's mechanic. Alex Rowe's Speedway interest began at Camden on Anzac Highway in the 30s. He pulled on a helmet and he drove well amongst all the dust and the dirt. Cars were push-started by the crew. Camden was the forerunner to Kilburn, where other sections of racing were then added to the program. In the early 50s, Sir Jack Brabham revolutionised speed car design when racing at the Sydney Showgrounds. He built the first lightweight speed car, a unique 1000cc engine, and those interesting wire wheels. Sir Jack's larger motor was bought by Adelaide's Kimber Knighton, who changed the bonnet design and put on his own bonnet emblem. Harry Neal drove for a short time to sort out the handling characteristics for Kim, who drove it in 1954-55. Kim gave the car a makeover with new body panels and solid wheels. It looks a very different car. A very young Kimber Knighton started driving very competitively until he took over as the Speedway promoter in 1954. For when the bull's toll was his catch cry. He had the steer, the bull, painted on his helmet to complete his slogan. Kimber Nathan in another set of wheels from his stable. Alex Rowe finally bought that car, rebuilt it, and on the suggestion of Harry Neal, gave it to young Bill Wigzell to drive. In 1955-56, Alex renumbered the old Brabham car SA22 and painted the car with the standout checkered design. The flamboyant Bill would often hang outside the roll bars as he drove. Even the genius of Alex Rowe could not make the twin reliable enough, so off-season there was another rebuild and a repaint with the Ford Blue. The four-cylinder supercharged Ford Consul engine was installed. Again, the Ford could not cope with Bill's flat-out style of racing. The engine often gave up in a cloud of steam and smoke. So many times Bill would lead the race only for the car to die in the last lap or so. He worked his car so hard. Bill started to drive sideways along the straight into the turn. The crowd was fascinated and they loved it. Bill's driving, of course, gave plenty of spills and thrills. In his earlier career, Bill was able to crash like a champion. Faye Taylor is a pretty memory from Rowley Park. She was an Irish driver from America brought out by the original promoter Alf Shields. In 1956, we saw the first Australian Speedcar Championship over 20 laps, and of course, it was at Rowley Park. Some of the drivers included Andy McGavin, Jack O'Day, Dean Hogarth, Ron Woods, Bruce Rickard, Rex Sendy and Harry Neal, the heroes of a young Rowley Park. This is the warm-up lap. You can see the huge crowd, and what the crowd loved, fast racing and plenty of bingles. There are many man caves around Adelaide which have this classic shot of Kimber Nathan flipping upside down with arms outstretched to break his fall. Luckily he didn't break his arms, but they didn't help much either. Kim finished up like this. Kimber Nathan had the knack of promoting events to regularly attract crowds of 10,000 people. He featured international and interstate drivers and riders in individual and team events. A major sponsor was Craven A. Another major night at Rowley Park. Bob Two Guns Tattersall on the inside of Jimmy Davis, another great American driver who was popular and successful and visited regularly. In 1956, Bob Tattersall parked on the infield, always with a big smile. He was as well known as his American sponsor, Sailor's Super Service Center in Illinois. Here's Two Guns in his new car. In the first 50-lap speedcar feature ever at Rowley Park, Bob was racing on 3 wheels. The stewards wanted a black flag in, but they finally considered he was driving safely on just 3 wheels, something Bill Wigzell did most of the time. Here is some action which made Rowley Park so legendary and why the fans packed in week after week. The TQs gave it all. The 3/4, which gave invaluable experience to drivers like Peter Maltby, Ray Foote, Rick Anderson, and many, many more. In 1957, Alex Rowe replaced the old Ford Consul with the amazing Peugeot SA2. This car gave Bill Wigzell the power and the reliability to take on all drivers at any track. As I mentioned, Bob Two Guns Tattersall ran on 3 wheels, but he only had 3. Bill Wigzell continuously ran on 3 of his 4 wheels. The front left was always inches off the ground. Dean Hogarth, number 9, a speedway legend, was a regular driver at Rowley Park and won many features. He was one of the more successful drivers and fiercely competitive, shown here driving underneath Bill Wigzell. We see now in the late 50s there were no roll cages and no full harness, just a lapdog. It shows the driver's courage, or perhaps some would say their foolishness. Bill Wigzell wore gas goggles from the Army surplus shop, wearing one over the other. When the top one got dirty, he'd push it up above the clean one. Alex Rowe proudly stands with his Peugeot and his driver outside his new workshop on Winston Avenue, Door Park, where Winston Music now stands. Here is our champion in action. Bill Wigzell is exhausted after winning the 50-lapper national feature ahead of a bunch of interstaters and Joe Brendler, SA25, who later drove the car for Bob Ray. Alex Rose was working out of his new Golden Fleece service station, so you're right, the new number 2 became Golden Fleece Yellow. Here's Alex the boss, Colin Small the mechanic, and our Bill proudly displaying the sashes and trophies just for a day's work. At last we see a roll cage on the new Renault 1600. It screams around the track, but Bill Wigzell number 2 is still there with a new sponsor, Camel Filter. The partnership of Kev Fisher and Seth Eichler made Alex Rowe an offer to purchase his speed car, now seen here in the number 88, and a bright orange colour scheme to add to their stable. This is the old Suddenly 99, which Kev Fisher drove for a while, but you can see the damage he caused. Kev replaced number 99 with the number 88 and the name Suddenly, which came from the original car that he purchased from Billy Willis in Victoria. Here is one of the first country meetings where Bill drove 88. Kev Fisher with Bill and the car designer Ian Teeley. From Christmas 1968, Bill Wigzell drove Suddenly with instant success. He was the only driver who was game to throw the car around the track, as we all remember and admire. A new era was about to start at Rowley Park. Here's Kev, Bill and his crew, and Suddenly. In 1964, Kim Bonython approached drivers like Ray Skipper, Peter Denton, Phil Hareen and Bill Wigzell to put on match races. 4 cars over 4 laps with a different pole driver for each race. The crowds loved it and they cheered their favourites. Bill Wigzell and Ray Skipper fight it out. The mid-60s saw the arrival of American Marshall Sargent, again brought out by Kim Bonython. He was one of many drivers such as Larry Burton and Hippie Patterson. Marshall Sargent was a ferocious driver with Ray Burton, Phil Hareen and Ray Skipper in the modifieds. Bill Wigzell continues his signature drive, a 3-wheeler in Suddenly for Fisher Ford. Here's more typical Bill, driving sideways. In 1970, the Supermodified Australian title was held in Morisset in New South Wales over 30 laps. There was feverish activity and preparation in the pits with drivers and crews before the race. Of course, our Bill featured strongly. Here is the lineup of drivers from all over Australia. Enjoy the action. And guess who won? Yep, Bill Wigzell from Rowley Park, his first national title in the Super Modifieds. David Lander, who became the promoter at Parramatta, came second. Third was Les Harrower from Victoria, and fourth Peter Dickinson from New South Wales. The sun sets on a great Aussie title. Bill shows off another garland, his sash and his trophy from Morisset. The winners of the title, Bill centre, Dave on the left and Les on the right. Again, the four place getters, Bill, Dave, Les and Peter. Back home in Adelaide, Bill displays his spoils from Morisset. Red Line Speedway at Ballarat was strangely built on the side of a hill. It's a tricky drive, downhill on one side and uphill on the other. Bill again in typical action with his sideways drive. And now his unbelievable three-wheeler. Well-known and popular Glenn Dix, who later became the Australian Grand Prix Marshal, gives the checkered flag to Bill. Glenn was the RTA clerk of the course for some 20 years. Bill greets the crowd with the winner's wave. Trophies and sashes were the norm for Bill, but once upon a time, Bill was given a real winner's check. They usually went to the boss. Bill was loved for his engaging smile whenever approached by anybody. Here's a nostalgic photo of our champion and his car. All champions sometimes crash. Some crash very well. This one is so extensive you wonder if it can be repaired. Ian Tierley and Kev Fisher had to repair Bill's occasional mistake. Hours and days of work in the workshop just to be ready for next Friday night. Bill Wigzell, a winner in the southeast with his crew, and Speedway caller Noel O'Connor from Channel 10. Enjoy the action of Suddenly, number 88, and Bill, who took out the 1971 Super Modified title with Phil Hareen second, Dick Britton third, and Ron Smith from Victoria in fourth place. 1972 and Rowley Park with some typical modified and speed car action, with Bill Wigzell taking his usual outside line around the park. Now to the state's super modified title in 1972 at Rowley Park and the final few laps of the 30-lap event. Bill Wigzell led the race, but in the final stages, Bill got a little loose on turn 4, and a great dash from Phil Hareen saw him take the race, one of the few times that Phil knocked off the champ. The winners were Phil Hareen first, Bill Wigzell was second, South Australia's Alan Jones was third, and Ron Smith from Victoria was fourth. 1972 was the first real national title, as there were representatives from every state in Australia. Graham McCubbin and Phil Hareen fought it out, and Bill Wigzell burnt it out. He actually retired with burnt tyres. The highly respected race, the Harry Neale Memorial Feature at Rowley Park, always attracted a huge field from all over Australia. Dean Hogarth, George Tatnall, and so many local and interstate drivers. Tatnall led the race with plenty of action, finesse and competition in his first Offenhauser-powered speed car. There were even some upside-down manoeuvres. George Tatnall took the perfect Rowley Park line to win the race and a magnificent trophy. He was congratulated by everybody on the infield. Who wouldn't be proud of this trophy? Another one for the shelf. In the 1975-76 season, Bill drove in both the midget and the modified for the Fisher-Eichler team. We can see them here. This caused great consternation in the pits as he jumped from one car to another in between races. In 1976, Kev Fisher, Cess Eichler, Ray Skipper and Rex Sendy bought Rowley Park from Kimber Nathan, and the racing still continues. The RDA, led by Sel Harley, bought the track when ill health forced Kev and Cess to retire from the promotion of Rowley Park. Bill Wigzell loved his roadster, but after the sudden illness of Ken and Cess, the Fisher-Eichler partnership was finished. George Tatnall bought the roadster, rarely raced it, and now it sits proudly in the Sydney showroom with his other cars. Bill raced his roadster on bitumen at the International Raceway half-mile track with promoter Gary Hoffman. The Speedcar Grand Prix in Liverpool was a new experience. South Australia was represented by Bill Wigzell and Phil Hareen. It was a fast bitumen track loved by the Americans A.J. Foyt and Mel Kenyon, seen here getting ready for the big race. They always drew a huge crowd wherever they appeared. Action was fast and furious. Our Bill was up there, but he missed a major placing. The cars of Foyt and Kenyon were brought to Australia by their huge sponsors, the Gilmore Racing outfit. The cars were the Autocraft-powered, air-cooled engine like a VW, and so lightweight, about 200 pounds lighter than the conventional engine. He also drove the new car at the International Raceway. The wing was finally replaced with a much larger one. The car turned black and was sponsored by Rowley Wines, the sponsor who created the Bill Wigzell Porsche. You couldn't miss those big signs for Peter Liebeck and Rowley Wine. Back to Warrnambool, the great race and a big clash between Billy Wigzell and Graham McCubbin. The boys salute the crowd in their form-up lap. With Steve Ray here first, Bill Wigzell second, and Tim Moncrief third. Let's have a look at some of the drivers in match races. There was Ray Skipper in the Corvette for Eddie Records. ZK Gars was in the Holden for John H. Ellers. And Phil Arene in the Violent Valiant for Clem Smith Motors. One of the match races with Bill and Phil. Bill Wigzell was keen to race anywhere at any time. He raced at Virginia Fairground in the mid-70s. After a couple of seasons, the locals complained about the noise, the crowds and the dirt, after which the council closed down the track and converted it back to a memorial park. Bruce Rickard suffered an injury preventing him from driving. He offered the car to Bill, who would never knock back a race. Bill won the feature and was congratulated by Glenn Dix. Glenn Dix, a longtime friend and colleague of Billy Wigzell, wanted to be a part of this dedication. Glenn wrote, "My first real contact with Bill was just after I joined the RDA in the mid-50s. I needed the job done on the Austin A40. It needed new brake lining. A member suggested I speak with Bill Wigzell, who did good jobs at home. A good job at little or no cost began a lifelong friendship." Involved in Speedway, I got to know him as an honest and true competitor. He was always a great competitor, and as an official, I never had problems or disputes with him. He just loved to race. My most disappointing experience with Bill came after the running of the only 100-lap speedcar race. Kim asked me to direct the race so we could be sure of being able to present a winner without having to play back lengthy tape recordings. The race was a success, pit stops included, but after Bill had been declared the provisional winner, the race was disputed. After many hours of listening to tapes, the protest was upheld, and as the race director, it was my duty to visit Bill at his home, giving him the amended results and exchanging sashes. Like a true gentleman and competitor, he accepted the revised results. I was lucky to join the team in a trip to Redline Speedway at Ballarat. We left Murray Bridge at lunchtime to race that night at Redline Speedway. Bill and I sat in the back enjoying the air-conditioned comfort. A few k's out of Nil, Kevin said there was a car with some flashing lights slowly making ground on us. I can still hear Bill saying, "Pay the fine and let's get the air conditioning going." They were a great team of Speedway people, and I was proud to be a part of some great times. My ride on Suddenly with Bill hands over my shoulder on the closing night at Rowley Park was an experience I will never forget. A wonderful dedication from Glenn Dix. So to the end of a magnificent era. The Advertiser wrote a requiem with pictures of the old pug hole that turned into a mecca of Speedway stars and cars, the place where the champions gathered. We all recall the emotion and nostalgia of that final night. For me personally, it was a privilege and an honour to be the track announcer on the last night at Rowley Park to farewell the old girl. Australian radio and TV personality Steve Raymond brought a TV crew to Adelaide on that night to capture the action and the sadness of the last night at Rowley Park. He showed his Australian audiences the spirit of Rowley Park.
And we got a big welcome to National TV compere Steve Rowley. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, wherever you're watching throughout Australia, or to be more precise, I should say good evening, because it's Friday night and getting pretty late, and we're talking to you from Rowley Park Speedway in the very heart of Adelaide, South Australia. And the reason we've journeyed here, like so many thousands of other people, is because for the past 31 years, the circuit has been one of the most prestigious speedways in the country. Tonight, the shutters come down for the final time. One man who's raced this circuit many, many times in speed cars, but perhaps more importantly, has been a driving force as the promoter for 20 years. is about to saddle up once more. How about a typical Rowley Park welcome to none other than Mr. Kim Van Eycken? How does it feel, Kim, to be second only in popularity to federal politicians? I can hear all the bloody pies as I still here. Would you like to take your bloody helmet off for just a moment? I don't know, Doctor. Kim, if I can ask you, seeing as a start ignite the 20 years association at Rowley Park, what thoughts run through your mind tonight?
Well, it's a very sad night, of course. The last night of one of the best tracks, I believe, in the world. And I'm pleased to see so many of my old friends here, both inside the fence and outside, who've come to wish it all goodbye. It's a great night, and I'm glad to be a small part of it.
You're getting a bit long in the tooth to get on one of these, aren't you?
Oh, yes, I suppose this is about my 8th emergence from retirement. But as I said the other day, I guess it's not many city councillors that drive at Rowley Park.
It may look like slapstick from there, but if you wonder why they're dressed up with so much protective gear, you're about to find out. Let's take you to the Liverpool Speedway complex and see what can happen in the topsy-turvy world of speedway racing. George Tatnell, the driver we were talking to a few moments ago. Gamer than Gunga Din, I think you'd agree.
Kim Van Eycken, Bill Wigzell, Alex Rowe and hundreds of others were Rowley Park. Bill Wigzell retired from racing but joined up with Phil Hareen to raise thousands of dollars for the Paraplegic and Quadriplegic Association, an organisation very close to Phil's heart. Phil Hareen said of Bill Wigzell, he was the nicest guy on and off the track. He said you could race wheel to wheel, lap after lap without fear because Bill Wigzell was a champion.